Hi, everyone. It's Rebecca Imholz with the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce. I am so glad that you can join us today for our weekly The Pivot. I welcome those who are joining us live and those watching the YouTube video of this later. I'm looking forward to our guest today, Lowcountry Local First. It is upon us the holiday season. It's important to remember to shop locally first, and I look forward to hearing about what they have been up to during the pandemic as well, and for you to learn more about them. I welcome now our host, John Carroll. How are you today, John?
Doing well, Rebecca. Thank you. Good to be here as always with you and to, as you said, get close to the holiday season and to remember where those gift dollars ought to go if and when we can help it, right? So thank you for your introduction and for always keeping us together. And welcome everyone to The Pivot, a weekly series of informational discussions on our local, regional, and national issues in the midst of and following the current pandemic. This event is presented exclusively by the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for taking time with your Mount Pleasant Chamber to join fellow members and staying informed to help you care for your team, your clients and customers, and take care of business in post-pandemic conditions. As a service to the members of the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce and the local community, we've been offering the Pivot weekly since the early days of the current pandemic. Our guest on today's edition of the Pivot is with Lowcountry Local First, another local membership organization that has had to flex and pivot to continue serving its members and the greater community. We'll look today at how this organization was promoting choosing and doing business with locally owned and operated businesses long before most people heard the term pandemic. Our guest today on the Pivot is Steve Fletcher, Community Partnership Manager for Lowcountry Local First. Steve's personal and professional adventures have taken him to destinations as far as Florence, Italy, and to places a little closer to home, like Florence, South Carolina. A New Jerseyan by birth, Steve received his Bachelor of Arts degree from the College of William and Mary. He's worked in the private sector as a PR account executive and content strategist, but he's also been a brewery tour guide, a door-to-door fundraiser, a bartender, and a traveling musician. A 2019 graduate of the College of Charleston's Master of Public Administration program, Steve has gained a deep appreciation for the power and purpose of social entrepreneurship and nonprofit management. When he's not thinking about ways to better steward and support local businesses, you'll find Steve and his wife, Michaela, walking their dog, Dell, or grabbing some sushi from, and Steve, help me with this, is it Aji or Ahi? One of your favorite James Island places to eat.
Yeah, for someone who just declared that's his favorite place, I'm embarrassed to say your guest, John, is as good as mine, but I believe the former is correct. I believe Aji is the way it's pronounced.
Wonderful.
Don't tell Joyce, the owner.
I'm sure they don't quiz you on the way in, right?
Yeah. Don't tell Joyce, the owner, that I just said that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And Joyce, if you're listening, we love you, and I want to come over and find out what all the rage is about. So Steve, welcome to the Pivot.
Thank you for having me.
Steve, for those not familiar with Lowcountry Local First, let's talk a little bit about mission, purpose, and history of the organization, can we?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm one of the newer faces at Lowcountry Local First, been there for coming up on about 2 years now. But the organization itself has been around for about 15 years. It was founded that long ago by Jamie Haley, who is still our executive director today. Mission-wise, we at LLF believe that local independent businesses are the cornerstone of our culture, economy, and character. And so that's why we cultivate an economy anchored in local ownership, or we strive to cultivate an economy anchored in local ownership. I think you might have mentioned, but we're a nonprofit. We're also membership driven. So as a local 501c3, we again are a smaller team, but we do our best to serve the 1,000+ local business owners in the Low Country. I'd say about 500 of whom are members of our organization. And so as you can probably relate, John, and you as well, Rebecca, as leaders of a membership driven organization here in the Lowcountry, even though we're membership based and there are a host of benefits that are reserved for those active paying members, it's also true that any Lowcountry based business benefits from a lot of our work, particularly educational campaigns like Buy Local Month, which I'm sure we'll talk about more later, and some of our advocacy initiatives like spearheading formula business district policies and organizing roundtables with local elected officials.
Wow, and I'm sure there's a laundry list, and Steve, it would take us a lot longer than we normally have available to us to go through everything in detail. But as a membership organization, you serve a diverse ecosystem of businesses and communities in the region. What are some examples of the initiatives, programs, and events Lowcountry Local First is offering to support local business growth in general, and in particular, your member organizations?
Yeah, great question, John. These are in large part, to answer your question, these are in large part programs and initiatives that have been taking place long before the pandemic, which we've edified or tailored or modified or altered in different ways as a result of the pandemic. And then certainly there are a few programs and initiatives that we've bolted on in response to a rapidly changing set of circumstances. But a few of the programs that have been going on for a while that we've improved in order to maximize value in the midst of the coronavirus would be first off, Local Works, which is our co-working initiative. Lowcountry Local First is the Charleston area's very first provider of co-working. We opened up our first location about 5 years ago at 1630 Meeting Street. A few months ago, we closed that location and will be reopening in an expanded location at 1859 Somerville Avenue, just a few minutes up the road. So we're really excited to open up. We'll be opening up December 15th. And again, Local Works is just another way for us to work our mission and live our mission, particularly by offering a low-cost, contract-free professional workspace for local entrepreneurs, local freelancers, local creatives. If you want to learn more about that, check out localworkscharleston.org. We've still got offices, pods, open co-working seats available. So contact me if you're interested in that. Actually just got back from there. I'm going to be heading back later today. So we're building into that space a lot of safeguards against the transmission of COVID-19, whether it's making sure the HVAC is modern and running proficiently, or ensuring that we have things called semi-private pods, which will allow local workers to be able to kind of be part of the open co-working collaborative environment, but also be able to retreat away into their own little cubby for a little extra isolation. Buy Local Month would be another program we've got. Check out buylocalmonth.com. That's happening right now. And buylocalmonth.com is all about urging local Charlestonians to vote for mom and pop with their dollars. So basically, we encourage folks to choose to support local businesses in the Lowcountry over big box stores and national chains. And this is just our organization speaking, but through research we've compiled, we've determined that when you choose to patronize mom and pop stores, local small businesses, and this bears out in research by Michigan State University and others over the years. And when you choose those over big box stores and national chains, you are choosing to not divert money, character, and power away from our community. So Buy Local Month, check it out. And then the last thing I'll mention real quickly, John, and we can drill down into any of these that you'd like, would be our Good Business Summit, which for the first time in 8 years will be virtual. It's happening over 2 days, this coming Good Business Summit, February 24th and 25th. You can pick up tickets for that right now. If you want to check out goodbusinesssummit.org, there's a discount for our members. Again, those tickets are available. This is our 8th annual summit. Really excited to be inviting First Reliance of Florence-based Community Bank as our presenting sponsor this year. And as is the case every year, this will be an event, though online, presented by our organization to spotlight ideas and workable solutions for building your company with profit and purpose. We've got sponsorships still available for that as well if you'd like to contact me.
Fantastic, Steve. Let's do that, what you suggested. Let's do a little bit of a drill down The local works, the co-working space, talk about that in relation to or comparison with an executive suites setting. Talk about the differences, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So Local Works initially was conceived of as a way to offer business owners an affordable, accessible office solution that in very many ways mimicked a traditional office space in that it was clean, it was well tended to, there was reception, there was an opportunity to get mail there was an opportunity to park safely, reliably, there was an opportunity to bring in guests and visitors. There was an opportunity to access conference rooms. But we wanted to make sure that there was also a real, true atmosphere that was cultivated that encouraged these individuals who joined the co-working space to be collaborative. So while there are small, what we call kind of micro offices or private offices, we'll have about 7 of them, and there are these pods and there are these open co-working spaces that are billed monthly. Which is in some ways similar to kind of your traditional, as you mentioned, executive suite office solution experience. There are also opportunities for these members to meaningfully engage with one another, or that's our mission at least. So we'll invite members of the larger organization, LLF's organization. We'll invite members to come in and demo a new service or a new product. We had iNap in there one day. It's this local company that walks you through a rejuvenative 15-minute nap. And so we had them come in, we cleared out the conference room, and all of the members of Local Works for the day could set up 15-minute slots to come in and kind of experience this rejuvenatory 15-minute eye nap from one of our members free of charge. We had Eclipse haircuts come in one day, and the guys from Eclipse encouraged people to sign up for a 30-minute slot right on their mobile app, and everyone at Local Works had a discount for that day, and they got their haircut in our smaller meeting room. So I'd say the way that we differentiate ourselves from, or rather bolt on to the executive suite traditional office solution experience, is that we like to meaningfully offer local entrepreneurs, freelancers, creatives, whether you're an architect or you're a baker, we've had both and everything in between, the opportunity to come together and make friends, make business deals and alliances and negotiations, but really just have a safe space to share ideas, whether they're business ideas or personal ideas. We want to bring people together who are local for the betterment of the community. That's the plan.
Thanks, Steve. That's a great insight. And I think some people just need a little bit of background noise to get busy and get some work done, don't they?
That's right. And some people come in and they totally get the whole romantic notion of collaboration. Then there are the people, as you mentioned, who just want a little bit of that din in the background. They feed off of that energy, which is that kind of ineffable quality to any sort of community workspace, whether it's a library or an office.
Yep. Your space is already paid for, so it's like a coffee shop, but you don't feel compelled to have to buy anything when you walk in every time.
Yeah, 100%. So everything, the way we do it is you pay one price per month and you can break that contract at any time and you get everything for that one price. So it's not totally dissimilar to other co-working spaces, but we've got locally roasted coffee from Coastal Coffee Roasters. Everything in our space is built out with local vendors. So if you haven't guessed by now, we're a little bit obsessed with local, and that shows, I think, in our co-working space, for better or for worse.
And thank heavens for that. I mean, so Steve, I'm gonna vary a little bit from what you were expecting, and there are organizations that focus on local all over the map, right? And so what would distinguish you from those others primarily would be the fact that you're contouring to the shape and culture and fabric of the South Carolina Lowcountry. Talk a little bit about how that, makes you unique.
Yeah, that's a great point. So there are local first organizations across the country with whom we interact to share best practices and to check in once in a while. There are annual events for these sorts of things. Bali, which is now Common Future, is one of the forerunners of the local economic development movement in the United States and beyond. And I think you characterize that perfectly, John, in that these local first, we're not doing something entirely different from these other local first groups, which are, which are driven to retain the unique character of their community through kind of a market-based approach of advocating for and supporting local businesses. But perhaps what differentiates Lowcountry Local First is nothing other than the fact that we are in the Lowcountry and we are serving constituents who are unique in that they're in the Lowcountry. And so when dollars are spent here locally in the Lowcountry, they can be respent locally, and that raises the overall level of economic activity in the Lowcountry. That pays more salaries in the Lowcountry. That builds the Lowcountry's local tax base up. So, everything we do and advocate for when we're supporting local small businesses is, or a lot of it at least, is with the hopes that we will be able to make this place we call home as strong and as robust and as unique as it can possibly be. Yeah, but I mean, we believe essentially, John, that one-of-a-kind businesses are a fundamental part of the distinctive character of the Lowcountry.
Steve, it's interesting, and I think unless you've dug into the history of the Mount Pleasant Chamber, you probably wouldn't know this, but our roots, Lowcountry Local First and Mount Pleasant Chamber, are very similar in that the forerunner of the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce was the East Cooper Merchants Association. And what they did was pool dollars to advertise and draw people to shop east of the Cooper back in the day.
Oh, very cool.
And so that local first focus has never really left our organization. We just have a very, we have a geography that's sort of defined for us, as does Lowcountry Local First.
Cool. Yeah, I did not know that history. Thanks for that.
So yeah, but I guess the thought there is that when we spend money locally, and you've articulated it very well, when we spend money locally and give local businesses a chance to grow, that gives all kinds of opportunities, right? Some of those grow into pretty good sized organizations that become employers, and they add to the economy. I think we are able to retain talent, right? When the homegrown talent that we have here, Charleston's an attractive place to begin with, but we enhance that even further with the kind of work that you're doing. Talk a little bit about that, if you will.
Yeah, sure. I think those are all spot on when thinking about why an organization would want to focus on building up, propping up local businesses, as well as making more robust the accompanying citizenry's understanding of why they should support those local businesses. I think you're spot on those being good reasons. When we think about why we do the advocacy work we do and why and how we set up our programming, we're thinking about what you're mentioning. We're also thinking about environmental factors. So reducing the amount of materials and products that are bought from national retail chains can help reduce one's ecological footprint. We would argue, and it bears out in research as well, that there's better customer service when you are a local business as opposed to a big box chain. When shopping at local businesses, you're seen as an individual and not a consumer statistic. I would also argue that local economic growth, as you mentioned, John, attracts new talent and professionals who may in turn create businesses of their own, enhancing the Lowcountry's local economy. And again, this is said a lot, but I think it bears repeating that small local businesses are the largest employers nationally. They create 2 out of every 3 new jobs. And all of this is not to account for the fact that locally owned businesses contribute more to local charities and fundraisers than do their national counterparts. Last thing I'd say, John, is that a multitude of small local businesses, each selecting products based not on a national sales plan, but on their own interests and the need of their local customers, guarantees a much broader range of product choices. So there's this idea of consumer choice being increased when there's a focus on building up local businesses.
Yeah, yeah, and we are. I love the partnership that we've been able to create between the organizations, Steve, because we're all kind of working toward the same common goal, and that's what excites me. Did we talk? We talked about local works. Let's drill down in a little bit more into Buy Local Month. We all know the giant A that people seem to go to when they want to buy things. It's almost an automatic click on the screen, but it maybe takes an extra step or two, but that local purchase can have a big impact.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've been doing Buy Local Month. We've been organizing Buy Local Month for a number of years now. You can seek out more information at buylocalmonth.com. As I mentioned before, yeah, we've tweaked. Every year Buy Local Month has been just an extra push on our part to identify publicly the importance of supporting local to the local community here in the Lowcountry in the lead up to the holidays. So it's largely a push for, service-based organizations and businesses, but also commodities and product-based businesses here locally, boutiques, crafts people, the individuals who are selling holiday gifts. It's a push to ensure that people shift at least 10% of their spending. We say sign our pledge to indicate that you as a consumer here in the Lowcountry will shift at least 10% of your spending, but we really recommend you shift as much as you can, because the more money that you shift to local businesses, again, the more vibrant our community will be. So Buy Local Month this year is actually 2 months. We're calling it Buy Local Season, in large part because we are keenly aware of local businesses' unique needs in this bizarre, chaotic, frenetic, frenzied time. And so we've made it 2 months. We have really built out our buylocalmonth.com website in a big way. If you're a current member, you can get right on there. If you're not a member, you just sign up for membership and we can get you your own dedicated page to kind of broadcast out to the world what some of your holiday time promotions and deals and discounts are. If you've been driving down the road and you've seen 5 million political campaign signs, if you squint, you might see one of ours, which is a Vote for Mom and Pop sign. It's kind of a blue American flag in the background with big white letters that say Vote for Mom and Pop. That's kind of just our campaigny, jargony way of indicating to folks that it's important to choose small local businesses as much as possible as you do your holiday shopping this year.
Steve, and again, we're going a little bit off script, but right. When I think of Lowcountry Local First, the poster child who comes to mind immediately is Christine at Wonderworks, right?
Sure.
She's been a member, a supporter, a member of the board, almost from the get-go, and so a business like hers has to source things that you can't readily find everywhere.
Right.
But that's just one example. If you would spotlight a member or two. If you want to talk more about Christine and Wonderworks, great, but spotlight a couple of members and give us some of the richness that you see at Lowcountry Local First.
Yeah, well, I'll spotlight one just off the top of my head who does what you're talking about, which is what a lot of businesses do. No business exists in a vacuum, and so you need to establish B2B relationships sometimes with businesses that are not immediately based in your backyard, and that's okay too. We're Lowcountry Local First, not Lowcountry Local only. I think of Montreux Wine Distributors. They are a women-owned local wine distributorship that is up against some really big players who are really entrenched, not just in our local community, but around the country. If you want to get an immediate headache, look into how wine and alcohol distribution works in this country. I'm not going to make a qualitative judgment one way or the other, but I'll tell you it's very complicated and it's hard as a new upstart to come in and disrupt that particular industry. The owners of Montreux Wine Distributors are coming in and they have sourced wines primarily from people of color, and also wine producers who are from the LGBTQ community. Other communities that have been systemically disadvantaged for one reason or another, and they brought those wines in, and they're currently trying to get those wines in the hands of local restaurant owners in order to not only build up their own business, right, and create a pathway for success for themselves as local entrepreneurs, but also, which I think is a really, really, really great push, but also to highlight some of these wine producers who have been lesser known over the years and who have not been given their due spotlight for one reason or another. A lot of it's systemic. But if you look at the numbers of wine producers and who owns, which families own the type of wine that you're drinking at restaurants, it's something like 99% white owned. And so Mantra Wine Distributor, I think, would be a good example of, just off the top of my head, of a local entrepreneur that is sourcing materials, a product from outside of the Lowcountry, but is still based here in the Lowcountry and is finding a really cool way to pair profit with purpose.
And that's very well said, Steve. We so many small businesses have to find a way to break into an industry or a market, and it's an uphill climb, right? They've got a love and a passion for and some level of expertise. And so what I'm hearing you say is that Lowcountry Local First, among other things, is trying to help them in that climb, right? In that battle of making sure that people understand. And I'd have to think that there are people who, because of the work that Mantra does, have found something they want to hang on to. They have found a particular wine that they can't get enough of, or something along those lines that they wouldn't have had the opportunity to discover otherwise.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's well put.
I appreciate that. And so talk a little bit about, Steve, as we get into the new year. You've already talked about the Good Business Summit being virtual in February. Are you looking at going back to in person outside of local works, of course? And what's going on, with all of that these days with Lowcountry Local First?
Yeah, great question. So just to double click on your latter point there, yes, we will be opening up, as you mentioned, December 15th, Local Works. So that is one of our programs, essentially. That will obviously be in person. We're excited to invite people into a space which will be regularly sanitized. It'll be adhering to and in accordance with all of the CDC, DHEC, EPA guidelines. We're going to be distancing. We're going to be wearing masks. And we're going to be hoping that we don't have to do all of that for much longer, but for the time being, in order to open up safely at Local Works, 1859 Somerville Ave, we will have those measures in place. As far as our organization-wide events, for the foreseeable future, meaning Q1 of 2021, we will not be hosting our large-scale in-person events. I mentioned earlier the Good Business Summit, which will be happening in late February, will be virtual. That was a determination that was made it feels like eons ago, but many months ago, in preparation for what could be a very extended obstacle towards getting back to life and business as usual. So, we're keenly aware of just how important it is to bring people together. It's why we exist in many ways. We think that humans naturally want to come together. We think that business happens best and most efficiently and effectively, especially local small business. I was saying before, it's important to know who you're doing business with. And there's no better way to know who you're doing business with than to really feel for them and be empathetic for them and their families and their cause than to bring them together under the same roof. And so one of the big things we do, I know your chamber does a great job of this as well, and other chambers do across the region and the world, the country rather, is to offer business owners an opportunity to come together and have some locally sourced food, some drink, talk business, or just kind of talk shop or talk family. Just kind of give folks an opportunity to network, one business owner to another. And that is something that we've had to put on hold for a while as we've pivoted to a virtual environment. And we've tried to, introduce virtual equivalents to all of the events and in-person activities that we once held regularly. And we'd love to get back to being able to pivot back to the in-person format. We just need to make sure we're doing it in a safe way. So, as you would probably relate, John, as a membership-based organization with over 500 members and a team that's fewer than 10, our organization boards just determined that for the immediate future, it's best to focus on imparting as much value as possible to those virtual offerings like webinars, workshops, and other, COVID resource hub resources, while we closely monitor the spread of the virus and the associated mitigation efforts. But yeah, when it's safe to start hosting the types of large scale events that we love hosting and are why we exist, in person, like our annual meeting, local socials, and the Good Business Summit, we'll let you know. And we look forward to that day.
As do we, Steve.
Yeah.
Steve, and we talked about this before we started, what of the pivots and flexes that you've had to make for the pandemic do you think will stick around? What are the things you've changed that are good keepers for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we've been doing a lot of soul searching on that right now, because as we look ahead to 2021 and as we do visioning and have kind of annual plans put together, it would behoove us to know what of the changes we've made should stick around. I would say right off the bat, it feels like some of our programming, like the Lowcountry Expertise Exchange that we set up as a direct response to the dislocation that the pandemic created, would be a good place to start when thinking about what to hold on to. The Lowcountry Expertise Exchange is really just a Google form. And we invite all of our members. At the beginning of COVID, we invited all local businesses, member or not, but we'll probably pivot if we keep this around long term, this resource, probably pivot to a scenario in which our members will have kind of unfettered, reliable access to this Google form, which essentially allows business owners who are looking for some sort of business help to connect with business owners who are looking to offer some sort of business help. So that'd be one thing that I'd imagine we would keep around. We've seen a lot of success from that. I think another thing that would be interesting to explore, and I'm kind of just shooting from the hip here, John, so thanks for indulging me, because we don't have all the answers right now as to what we'll be keeping around. But we're ever monitoring the situation to see what will impart most value long term. But I'd imagine that no frills grant programs like the one that we partnered with local telecommunications business Home Telecom on to give almost virtually no questions asked, $1,000 to $2,000 to local businesses who are in need, would be something else we keep around. We encouraged our members and other non-member local businesses to apply. It was a set of maybe 9 or 10 pretty easy to fill out questions. I think the whole of the application took about 10 minutes in all. To apply for this $1,000 grant, and we had like 250 applicants, understandably so with everything that's been going on. The grant was for $50,000, so we were only able to give out, I think, 50 of those grants. But certainly we read through all of the applications, and our heart broke for all of those individuals who were not able to secure that loan, that grant rather, that gift. And it's not a huge amount of money, but I think it opened our eyes as to how far something so seemingly small can go, especially in times of crisis. So because I think though a vaccine may come out, and though we may return as a society to some semblance of normal in the near future, certainly I'd imagine we will be in some state of crisis for longer than that, at least some version of this. And certainly the ripple effects of economies move slowly, right, until they don't. But I'd imagine that some ripple effect version of what we're dealing with now will probably, unfortunately, be on our heels for perhaps years to come. And so I think now is the time to start thinking about how we can deliver those services, those direct service type things like grant programs out to businesses.
Steve, in all of the discussion that we've had here today on the pivot, I can't help but think that Lowcountry Local First now more than ever for the work that you do and the purposes that you exist. If in the past it was about the prosperity and growth of local business and economy, it now is more along the lines of survival in some cases, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Can we borrow that for some of the grants we're applying for?
Now more than ever. It didn't originate here, Steve. And you know, the dynamics, we just appreciate what you do. Rebecca, let's get you in here. You always listen along, and you've got a great insight or a thought or a question. What did you catch while we were talking earlier?
Well, I'm very excited, Steve, to hear about the Local Works Charleston opening up. One of my questions regarding that is, you mentioned there's a membership fee involved that allows you access to the facility. What about the business out there who says, I like working out of my home office, but I do need occasionally meeting space to have a conference. I don't always want to meet someone in a coffee shop. Do you have sort of a la carte type offerings for that person who doesn't want a monthly membership?
Yeah, great question. 100%. Yes, we do. We try to keep everything as streamlined and seamless as possible, just for kind of the user experience sake. When you come to our website, there's not like a million different menu items, but yes, to your point, there certainly is a desire on behalf of individuals like that who have grown comfortable at home, but need to come in and work alongside people for one reason or another. So we will have 2 meeting rooms in this new space. One is an executive style, 18-person meeting room, long desk, audio visually equipped. The other is smaller, maybe 10 to 12 would be more comfortable in there, but also there's an AV screen. And if you're not a member of the space, if you're a member of the space, you get unfettered, free, reliable access to both those spaces. We don't sell tokens or coupons or credits. If you're in the space and you've got the Google Calendar loaded up, you can just type your name in there if the meeting room's open. But if you're not a member, to answer your question, this is a really roundabout way to answer your question, Rebecca. So thanks for indulging me as I lead up to the answer for 3 minutes. I can be long-winded if you haven't noticed. I apologize. It would be $100 for the large meeting room and $50 an hour for the small meeting room. So $100 per hour for the large meeting room, $50 per hour for the small meeting room. And those prices are could change, but that's kind of what we're working with right now. And we want to make it work. So if you need a space, if you're a local business owner, local creative, local artist, local entrepreneur, and you need a space to come, rub elbows with somebody you're collaborating with, or you just need a quiet spot to call your own for a couple hours, and you don't think you have the resources to afford it, like, you're wrong. We will make sure to get you into a spot, and we'll make sure that we do everything in our power to build you up, because if you succeed, then we'll succeed and the community will succeed long term. So we're always trying to look long tail at these sorts of things. And if there's an immediate need for space but a lack of resources, we believe it'll pay dividends in the future if we are able to provide that to you free of charge or at a highly discounted rate.
So part of that question also, I want kind of a part B.
Sure.
The person who does the monthly membership, does that include access to a receptionist type pool for someone to answer the phone? They go, I really do need someone to answer the phone when I can't get to it.
That's a great question. We offer an 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. reception hours. So there will be a community manager on site who will do some reception responsibilities and roles, such as organizing mail, indicating to members when they have mail that's come in, holding on to the mail in the interim, helping out with printer connectivity issues, putting out the 5,000,001 fires that could arise at any given time in a co-working space that's housing people from 100 different industries. But we don't have a service that answers the phone for individuals right now.
It's a shared type service, I guess, is what you're saying.
I'm sorry.
Well, right? A shared type service? I mean, or just a receptionist to represent Local Works Charleston is what I'm hearing.
Yes,
Okay.
that, and also to welcome in guests, ensure
Right.
that guests are, in or not in when they should or shouldn't be, to welcome in and take down names of visitors. Particularly during COVID, it's important to have someone up front at the front desk who will be able to kind of record who's coming and who's going for contact tracing purposes, that sort of thing.
True.
Also there's the things that come up at any given time. So there will be a dedicated staff member there, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, to deal with any sort of miscommunications about, I thought I reserved this conference room. No, I reserved this conference room. So part bouncer, part coffee maker, part, high level strategist thinking about what INAPs or Eclipse haircuts of the world they want to bring in to take over the conference room for the day. They're just a very creative person who's dedicated to the space for that amount of time every week.
I think it's a great job for an extrovert. It sounds like it
Yeah.
would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you are not long-winded. You are very informative.
Oh, I appreciate
And
that.
I hope that you will continue the buy local month. I like the buy local season concept.
Okay, good to know.
I
Great.
went on there. I actually have been a patron of, for example, brackish bow ties and some of those. So you have reminded me that I do need to shop local, and so that's a great place to go, the buylocalmonth.com. And I also
Thank you
like
so
the
much.
concept. Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you
Very,
so
very
much.
nicely done.
Great.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's
Rebecca,
all. That's all, Jordan. What's
you know,
that?
Rebecca, for some of us, buy local is not seasonal at all. It's year round. And it's just fun. I take it as a challenge, quite frankly, to find what I can find from a local provider, because I know the impact that Steve speaks of in terms of keeping the money and the economy, going locally. So Rebecca, thank you. Steve, how about a final thought and where we can find you, where someone can contact you?
Yeah, great. Thanks, John. You can contact me at my email address, which is steve@lowcountrylocalfirst.org. That's steve@lowcountrylocalfirst.org. My final thought would be, or call our office number at 843-801-3390. I would say, as a parting thought, just to kind of piggyback off of both of your very welcome endorsement of Buy Local Month, I would check out buylocalmonth.com. If you're a consumer here in the Lowcountry, make sure to sign the pledge. It's right in the upper right-hand corner of that site, and just indicate to us and to yourselves and your family and your friends and your neighbors who may or may not be local business owners that you are planning to support mom and pop stores this holiday season. If you're a local business owner, go to the site as well and make sure to get in touch with me so that we can sign you up for LLF membership and get your business its own page on buylocalmonth.com, along with the whole slew of other member benefits that come with signing up. So that would be it. I would also just, encourage everyone to stay safe, and as you're going to see your family and friends these holidays, just remember to be safe and be responsible, and hopefully we get through this thing quickly. And I also just wanted to indicate to you, Rebecca, and you, John, that we are really grateful to be, kind of arm in arm with other folks in the community who are true stewards of strong business here in the Lowcountry and understand that it has a very real, meaningful, sustaining impact on the quality of life of individuals who live here. So, it's a pleasure to be on today. I really appreciate it. And I hope this isn't the last time we meet. I hope I'm on another pivot. Maybe you come on one of our recurring webinars at some point, if that's all right.
Love to do it as well. Thank you, Steve Fletcher, Community Partnership Manager for Lowcountry Local First. Thanks to all of our chamber members who join us each week here at the Pivot. And a big thank you to the Mount Pleasant Chamber's own Rebecca Imholtz for keeping us on track today. From all of us at the Mount Pleasant Chamber, thank you for joining us this week for the Pivot. Make it a great week.